On This Week in Iowa, we're talking about Ag-Gag Law 2.0, then a discussion about what influenced the 2016 election and will it happen again, then how are female candidates being trained in Iowa, and a state leader changes parties, why he can't support the party of Trump anymore. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here on This Week in Iowa. I'm Sabrina Ahmed, and we are starting off our show talking about the agriculture trespassing law, also known as the Ag-Gag law, and what a new lawsuit involving the ACLU means for you at home. So joining me is Randy Evans, who's the executive director of the Iowa Freedom of Information Council. Randy, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Okay, so the ACLU this week announced that it's suing the state and the governor over the new Ag-Gag law, or Ag-Gag 2.0, as others are calling it. Can you explain what this newly signed law, first of all, does?
The first version of Ag-Gag was struck down as by a federal judge as unconstitutional, an unconstitutional intrusion on the First Amendment. The legislature responded in about 3 weeks and retooled the law, and it remains to be seen whether they tooled enough or not.
But describe Ag-Gag to me. What is that?
Ag-Gag makes it a crime to basically publicize what is found through undercover operations on agricultural production facilities or food processing facilities.
Now, the governor and the way the language actually is of the law calls it an ag trespassing law, and we have a statement from the governor. What she says the ag trespass law is designed to protect Iowa farmers from safety threats or biosecurity risks that untrained people on their property may cause. I am committed to protecting Iowa farmers and ensuring the safety and security of their livestock. So is that what this bill is all about, or this law is all about?
Well, I think there's disagreement between various sides in the debate. There are laws on the books already that deal with biosecurity in agricultural facilities. The one difference, though, between those laws and this law is that this is dealing with the publicizing of it, whether it's by activists or undercover journalists.
So why is this then a lawsuit about freedom of speech?
Well, I think that the public has a deep concern about how their food is produced, how their food is processed, and unfortunately, the only way you're going to know about this is through the undercover actions. Food processing companies or ag groups aren't going to say our facilities are doing this.
Okay, so do you believe that this is something that is in violation of people's constitutional rights?
Yes, I think that I think the law is intruding on the First Amendment. Undercover investigations, whether it's by activists or by journalists, have a long history in the United States. You go back to Upton Sinclair's novel, The Jungle, which educated Americans about unsanitary conditions in the food processing facilities.
But is it fair to say that if someone who's untrained and then claims they know more than they do and attempts to go work in a facility that they could be putting our food at risk?
I think the key here is that activists or journalists are not pretending that they have more skills than they would acknowledge. It's a matter of if you're going to go to work in a hog confinement facility, whether you are an employee or you're an undercover investigator, you're going to be trained. The question is whether the training is adequate.
What do you believe is the future? What do you think are the next steps with this lawsuit with the ACLU?
I think in a matter of some months we will know whether there were enough changes made to pass the constitutional test. I don't believe they'd have.
What would you say is the biggest difference between Ag-Gag 1.0 and 2.0?
Well, this one is trespass and deception, but really it's a matter of degree. It's not a wholesale change.
Randy, thank you very much for being here.
Yep.
We really appreciate it. We'll take a short break, everyone. We'll be right back.
A special Pickler in bed.
One of the biggest stars on the planet.
The one and only Blake Shelton.
This is cool. Judging the voice.
You've been such a huge advocate for country music.
I turn my chair for all kinds of different singers.
Loving Gwen Stefani.
How's she like the country?
I'm surprised how much she loves it.
18 years of hits and his latest venture, Old Red.
Have you been to your bathroom?
Spa.
I need to go.
Monday morning at 9.
On Local 5.
Enough already. Iowa banks announced $1 billion in record profits, received a significant tax reduction, and control 90% of Iowa's market. How much more could they want? Banks now want to kill competition, raise taxes on Iowa's 1.3 million credit union members, and limit financial choices in rural Iowa. Banks are misleading the public. Credit unions pay taxes. Iowans have had enough. Contact your legislators and urge them to protect financial choice.
Adventureland Park is now open weekends. Enjoy an entire summer of fun with a season pass including Adventure Bay and the Phoenix. Our new spinning roller coaster coming in June. Season passes are only $140 until May 31st. Get yours today on our website at adventurelandresort.com. Come on over to Adventureland. You're gonna love it at Adventureland.
Mitsubishi Electric systems are smarter, more efficient, and designed to deliver room-by-room temperature control. So it's always comfortable in the living room, bedroom, the room you work out in, the room you work in, rooms with ducts, rooms without ducts, rooms with all ducts, rooms that get kind of funky, rooms that are kind of funky, rooms for cat people, rooms for dog people, rooms without people, big rooms, monster rooms, old rooms, and smart ones. Ooh, Alexa, cool to 68. Mitsubishi Electric. Make yourself comfortable.
From the capital city, you're watching This Week in Iowa with Sabrina Ahmed, getting to the heart of what's happening in Iowa politics.
Welcome back, everyone. As the race for the 2020 presidential election ramps up in Iowa, so too will questions about voter attitudes and the states that flipped from blue to red in the election. So joining me now are two Iowa State University researchers, Daniel Krier and Abdi Kuso. We're here to talk about a very interesting study that you recently completed. You kind of analyzed the county level data from several federal sources. So what did you find out when you looked at that data?
Well, we were trying to figure out how a state that had voted twice for Obama made such a large swing to Trump. And we were trying to find the determinants, the factors that correlated with the swing. So we looked at counties that swung large and those that didn't, and we were trying to figure out which factors explained the switch.
So what are those factors that explain the switch?
And these factors can be divided into, for example, location factors. That's, for example, rurality or social location, age, education, and things like that, and identity. That is, for example, the percent of white population in a county would be, and religiosity as well.
So many pundits, and admittedly even some journalists, thought that maybe President Trump's win was partly due to these blue-collar workers who, after the economic downturn, felt really like they had no one helping them, so then they flipped and then voted for President Trump instead of President Obama. Is that what we found in your study?
No, we were surprised at that. So when we looked only at economic factors like adults not working, and we found that there seemed to be a relationship. However, when we added in rurality and then measures of social identity, things like education, religiosity, and whiteness, the percentage of the population is white in the county, we found that economic factors lost explanatory power. They didn't matter.
So what mattered?
And and by the way, the general narrative is that, for example, economic anxiety is what is driving these, election swings. And what we found is that it might not be economic, but it might be actually identity, what I refer to identity anxiety. So people actually react to cultural and identity issues more so than economic variables, I think.
So boil that down for me.
So counties that had that were most rural, counties that were most white, and counties that had the lowest percentage of adults with a college degree or more were the counties that had the largest swing to Trump. So it was being rural, being white, and having a low level of education seemed to be correlated with the Trump vote.
Do we know why?
It is multiple. I think one of the things maybe is that people have a tendency to really react to cultural and identity issues. And we're not exactly sure, but there are a lot of issues surrounding, for example, globally even, surrounding about identities, about immigration, about other things. So these things might be in the background of all of this, maybe.
Yeah.
So how can campaigns looking to 2020 take this information from what you found and apply it to their campaigns?
Well, the one thing that we thought was that if economic factors were unimportant in 2016, they're probably not going to be very important in 2020. Now, if the stock market tanks or we enter into a recession, all bets are off. But it looks like an improving economy or a strong economy isn't going to advantage Democrats right now.
Okay, so did your research find anything that maybe would advantage Democrats or would advantage Republicans?
I think emphasizing identity issues may advantage Democrats, and the same thing Republicans, I think, because people are really no longer, like, the idea of blue-collar workers might not actually sell. So I think, appealing people on the basis of identity may be more meaningful, I think.
Candidates will need to address the underlying cultural factors that are at play. So even though economic factors weren't obviously important, worries about them, anxiety about changing cultural norms, changing populations, concerns about access to a positive future in Iowa, those kinds of things are going to matter.
Interesting, gentlemen. Thank you very much for all the work you do.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you for being here. We'll take a short break, everyone. We'll be right back.
Hey, Central Iowa, Crossroads Shooting Sports is your premier indoor shooting range. With certified staff, we take your education, safety, and security seriously. Whether it's your first time holding a gun or you're an experienced shooter, Crossroads is a place for you. With a state-of-the-art indoor range, full-service training and conference facilities, and complete retail shop, Crossroads Shooting Sports is here to meet your needs. Visit crossroadshooting.com to learn about events, training courses, and more. Crossroads Shooting Sports, where responsibility and skill meet.
If you live with pets, you need flooring that stands up to all accidents, all pets, all the time. Now through May 23rd, save during the Mohawk All Pet Sale at Archer Home Center. Save up to $1,000 on select Mohawk carpet or select Mohawk hard surface styles featuring all pet protection and warranty. Discover the ultimate protection against spills and stains with exceptional savings and special financing. With the Mohawk Spring All Pet Sale, you can love your floors and love your pets.
Archer Home Center.
Only your locally owned Cub Cadet dealer has genuine parts, accessories, trained service technicians, and the widest selection of innovative Cub Cadet products. We're here for you whenever you need us, with expert service and support to keep your equipment running at peak performance for years to come. And right now, get $100 off all Ultima Series residential zero-turn mowers. To find the dealer near you, visit CubCadetDealers.com.
Switch to Extreme Internet and stream like never before with Netflix on Us for 1 year. Our 100% gigabit technology network brings you the fastest speeds from 100 meg up to 1 gig, super powerful in-home Wi-Fi, and 99.9% network reliability. Get Extreme Internet 100 for $34.99 a month for a year. Plus Netflix on Us for 12 months. Even if you already have it, call 844-EXTREME2 for details.
You're watching This Week in Iowa, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Iowa.
Welcome back, everyone. We are switching gears and talking about women running for office. Liz Edelman and Leslie Bohonic join me now. We are here with Emerge Iowa. Ladies, thank you so much for being here. First of all, can you tell me, what is Emerge?
Emerge Iowa is an organization that recruits, trains, and provides a network of support for Democratic women running for office. And it's actually one of 25 state affiliates of Emerge America, which has been around for about 17 years now.
And how long has it been in Iowa?
Emerge Iowa launched officially at the end of 2017, and we're currently training our first cohort of women who are planning to run for office for everything from school board up to exploring U.S. Senate runs.
Okay, so what does that process look like? How do you encourage women to get involved? How do you promote women who want to be involved? How do you train them?
Great question. So first we have to, as you said, recruit women. We know that women take at least 7 times more than men to be encouraged to run because they don't see that in themselves. They expect to be completely experienced before they're going to take that first step. And we need partners in the community like Liz Edelman and others who have a network of women that they know who they think should serve in public office to help tell them about Emerge and provide one of those 7 or more nudges to get a woman to raise their hand and say they're going to run for office.
And one of the ways that you do that is through these house parties. So Liz, you just recently hosted a house party for Kamala Harris, which is not to say that school boards aren't really important, but having a presidential candidate come into your home is also a pretty big deal.
Well, when Emerge reached out to us to see if we would be willing to host a house party, it was a no-brainer to be able to provide a platform for any woman running for office, but especially someone who's running for President of the United States, was quite an honor. And as Iowans, we get to have this firsthand access, this VIP access to candidates. And I feel like it's such a privilege. So it was a privilege that Emerge reached out to me. Whatever I can do as a woman, as a Democrat, to support other women running for office it was a no-brainer. And I was happy to help Emerge, help raise more awareness, because as you saw in the last election, 2018, 100 women were elected to the 116th Congress, 2 of them from Iowa. So the more women we can have at every level, state, federal, city, is really important. And I'm just proud that I was able to be a part of it, to provide that venue.
Now, as Leslie mentioned, that you are one of the women who they look to recruit other women. So what are you looking for in candidates, and what issues do you believe are the most important to women that you want them to be talking about?
Right. I think it probably depends on the woman that you're talking to. I think a lot of women have different issues that are important. You know, healthcare, access to affordable healthcare is the top for me. Education, Senator Harris touched on teacher pay, which is so important, and climate change. So I think it depends on the woman you're talking to, but I think that those issues resonate with a lot of women, a lot of families. You saw that, again, on the last election cycle. It was women that really, you heard from a lot of women at all levels. So, yeah, those are the issues that I think that are hitting home for people.
And what has it been like to go and try to recruit women? Do you feel like they're being more receptive?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one of those things where you can't be what you can't see. And so as we have more women stepping up to run, we're seeing what women in leadership looks like. You know, having more than one woman running for president on the Democratic side is incredibly exciting, and seeing all the women that ran for local office and state office last cycle just made all of the other women around them think, well, wait a second, I feel like I have some of those same desires and passions and abilities, and I need to talk to them and see why, you know, why they thought that this was a good fit for them and might be a good fit for me too.
And it's not just women. I mean, I would say there was a ton of men at my home too. So it is women, but it was men and women that attended this Emerge event. There was a lot of men that are supporting Emerge as well as women. So that's also important. We need the support from our male counterparts.
What is your message to other people who are in the community, men and women, who are watching this thinking, oh gosh, I might know someone?
Get in touch with us. Contact us at emergeia.org, and we're happy to provide another nudge and tell people about what we do. In addition to recruiting women to run for office, we also train them. We have a 6-month, 70-hour training program to really give them everything they need to know to launch a successful campaign at any level. So contact us. We're happy to partner with them across the state. This isn't Des Moines-centric. This is truly an Iowa organization.
Ladies, thank you very much for everything you do.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Short break, everyone. We'll be right back. But coming up next, all it takes is one signature to legalize sports betting in Iowa. What it'll let you do.
Attention all Americans. Introducing Neuromedics, a biotech company you can now invest in. Anyone can invest. Become a shareholder and join the fight against Alzheimer's and other neuroinflammatory diseases. Neuromedics is developing NE3107 as a therapeutic for neurological diseases in which neuroinflammation is a major contributing factor, such as Alzheimer's, migraines, and Parkinson's. Call now to discover how you can invest.
It's time to turn heads in a Toyota. Turn up your tunes in the Corolla hatchback with Apple CarPlay compatibility. Turn up your tech in Corolla with pre-collision system standard. Turn up your fun in the Camry with Alexa connectivity. This spring, turn up the heat in a Toyota. Lease a new 2019 Camry for $249 per month or get 0.9% APR financing for 60 months. Find yours at buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
From casting for fish to cruising the lake, Fleet Farm has what you need for a day out on the water. Whether it's keep her running like new season, not sharing this spot with anyone season, or even best day ever season. There's a reason people say, if Fleet Farm doesn't have it, you don't need it. Because we have it all. Fleet Farm. Built for real life.
A special Pickler and Ben.
One of the biggest stars on the planet.
The one and only Blake Shelton.
This is cool.
Judging the voice.
You've been such a huge advocate for country music.
I turn my chair for all kinds of different singers.
Loving Gwen Stefani.
How's she like the country?
I'm surprised how much she loves it.
18 years of hits and his latest venture, Old Red.
Have you been to your bathroom? I need to go.
Wow. Monday morning at 9.
On Local 5.
You're watching This Week in Iowa, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Iowa.
The longest-serving Republican member of the Iowa House is now no longer a member of that party. The Representative Andy McKean from Anamosa says he's now going to be with the Democrats. For McKean, it was all about keeping his head and staying away from the party of Trump. He says that during this session, there were a lot of high-profile bills McKean didn't agree with, and he found himself sympathizing with the Democratic perspective. He says he spent a lot of restless nights coming up with this decision to change.
I think the party has veered very sharply in, to the right, and that concerns me. It's a bit further than I would care to be, and I think that certainly was entered into my thinking.
McKean leaving the Republican Party for the Democrats does change the margin of how many seats Republicans controlled the state house. This is now the makeup on the House side: 53 Republicans, 47 Democrats. Now, McKean says he plans to run for re-election in 2020 as a Dem. Meanwhile, Iowa is now one step away from legalizing sports gambling. The House of Representatives approved the bill 67-31 Monday night. The bill allows Iowans who are 21 and older to bet on pro and collegiate sports, both in a casino and through fantasy sports apps. Winning will be taxed at about 6.5%. Some people were hesitant about problem gamblers having another outlet, but those who helped craft the bill say it will take it from an illegal activity to a clean one.
That brings it into light so that it's well regulated and also gives some added benefit to our communities, while at the same time helping those maybe who have addictions to gambling.
All that money that's going to be in there for treatment's not even going to touch the social problems and the family problems and the problems in young lives that no amount of money can ever fix.
The way it's set up now will allow for some changes in future years, including revenue sharing for the counties that don't have one of Iowa's 19 casinos. So now the bill is sitting on the governor's desk. She hasn't said if she'll sign it. Governor Reynolds says she's looking over the language.
I said we're going to let it work through the legislative process, and I think that's important. It gave both sides the opportunity to weigh in, to really highlight what their concerns or what they felt was a positive thing about the legislation. And so again, we'll sit down with my staff, our policy team, and we'll review it and make a decision going forward.
Some members in the House don't like the bill, saying it needs more concrete funding for helping Iowans who become addicted to gambling. And there is a separate bill going through the State House right now that would create additional help for that. Now, growing hemp could soon be legal in Iowa. It's a member of the cannabis family, but is grown for industrial use of products derived from it. Tuesday, the House passed the Senate's version of the bill 95-3. This was the fourth version of the bill created this year, and it clarifies some legal questions, including what and how it all can be grown, plus how it'll all be regulated. State lawmakers say the timing's just right.
This bill moves us in the right direction to consider it much more as a commodity and a crop and an opportunity both for our farmers and for our economy. The longer that we wait to pass this type of legislation, the more and more missed opportunities there will be.
The bill has ping-ponged back to the Senate because of two amendments that were tacked onto it. If they approve it, it'll end up on the governor's desk for approval by likely the end of this week. As of this taping, the legislature had not yet resumed, or not yet ended for the session. We'll be right back. You're watching This Week in Iowa.
We are Central Iowa Mechanical, your comfort home specialist. We're proud to be serving Central Iowa. Remember, you're only a call or click away from comfort. Call now at 515-243-8126. It's hard to stop a train.
Adventureland Park is now open weekends. Enjoy an entire summer of fun with a season pass including Adventure Bay and the Phoenix. Our new spinning roller coaster coming in June. Season passes are only $140 until May 31st. Get yours today on our website at adventurelandresort.com. Come on over to Adventureland. You're gonna love it at Adventureland.
It takes years of hard work to reach an elite level. Every day, practicing and honing skills. In every challenge, staying focused on the goal. For Local 5, it's being the best at telling local stories that matter to you. We're honored to celebrate student athletes on and off of the field. And we're excited for what's to come in the 20th year of Friday Night Blitz here on Local 5. We are Iowa Sports.
A second case of measles has been confirmed in Iowa. Local 5 was the first station to report this measles case.
Learn of breaking news first with alerts on the We Are Iowa app.
A puppy is recovering this morning after being stabbed and left to die in a dumpster in Ames.
You'll never wonder if a story is national or local.
An ISU grad student is accused of sexually assaulting a woman.
Receive important local breaking news alerts first from Local 5. Download the We Are Iowa app to your phone today.
We are Central Iowa Mechanical, your comfort home specialist. We're proud to be serving Central Iowa. Remember, you're only a call or click away from comfort. Call now at 515-243-8126. It's hard to stop a train.
Before we go, we do want to clarify that as of this taping, the legislature was still working on several bills at the State House. They got a lot of things done this week, including passing a bill that would add more transparency to property taxes and legislation that limits the powers of Iowa's Attorney General. We'll continue to have updates at the State House and bring them to you on our website, weareiowa.com. We'll have a full wrap next week. Thanks for joining us on This Week in Iowa. We'll see you again next Sunday.